Chapter 520. It's a sword technique I created, world suppressing. One sword suppressing the world, isn't it mighty? Zhou Xuanji harumphed. After all, only he knew the sword techniques created by the supreme legendary sword system, so it was not wrong to say that it was a sword technique he created. Hearing this, Feng Yuxiu muttered, world suppressing. What? Suppressing? That sword strike from before had indeed been incredibly domineering. As the sword descended, everything on the ground had been turned into barren land. Even someone as powerful as Li Yixin had been instantly killed, unable to resist at all. She sighed and said, "You already have the strength to fight against Zhao Gao's." Zhou Xuanji glanced at her and said, "Only? I can't defeat him 100%? Just as Feng Yuxiu was about to reply, she thought about it. This boy's talent was too powerful, and perhaps he had trump cards. As such, she fell silent. Seeing that she did not reply, Zhou Xuanji felt bored and ignored her. After the 3 god dynasties and 8 sanctums were destroyed, Zhou Xuanji and the others began to wander aimlessly. Now that the Abyss Pearl mainland was in a state of panic, those famous experts were most likely hiding and would not wait for him to kill his way in. If he could defeat Zhao Gao's, the war between two worlds would most likely end. Zhao Gao's was ranked first on the Abyss Pearl hero ranking, and his strength surpassed the Abyss Pearl mainland. However, Zhou Xuanji did not. There were still things in the Abyss Pearl mainland that he could not let go of, so he would often come back. According to Feng Yuxiu, with Zhao Gao's personality, after seeing the Abyss Pearl mainland, he would definitely come to find him. You understand Zhao Gao so well, what's your relationship? Zhou Xuanji asked mockingly, don't tell me he's your little lover. If I kill him, will you fight me to the death? Feng Yuxiu's gaze was cold as she said, there's a great difference in seniority between us. I've pursued the great Tao my entire life and will not be trapped by love. I hope you can be more respectful. Marquis could not help but laugh, causing Feng Yuxiu to glare at him. The relationship between the three of them had become much better. Feng Yuxiu would tell them about the Great Thousand Worlds and the Void so that they would be more prepared when they left the Center God Province. There were exactly 9 known boundless worlds. Legend had it that there were even more boundless worlds a long time ago, but the Heavenly Saint destroyed those boundless worlds in order to better manage them. It's best that you don't enter the Void carelessly in the future. Feng Yuxiu said profoundly, legend has it that a long time ago, a Heavenly Saint disappeared into the depths of the Void. Later, a new Heavenly Saint took his place. Less than half of the experts who went to the Void returned alive. So terrifying? Zhou Xuanji and Marquis looked at each other. At the foot of the mountain there was a bare tree with 2 people tied to it. The 2 of them were dirty and had messy hair. They were in a sorry state. They stood shoulder to shoulder and glared at Gu Tianxia. They were the Abyss Pearl mainland's children of destiny. When they had first descended to the Center God Province, they had been incredibly majestic. However, they had encountered Gu Tianxia and their magic energy had been sucked dry. Now they were 2 cripples. Despicable. If this goes on, we'll become the sinners of the Abyss Pearl mainland. A tall man said as he gritted his teeth. If news of this humiliation reached the Abyss Pearl mainland, would they still have the face to live? The person beside him sighed and said, what do we do? We're already prisoners. Even though we're in a sorry state, the Center God Province's people won't be able to do anything in the Abyss Pearl mainland. The difference in strength between the 2 worlds is still quite great. It's said that the 3 people sent over have the highest cultivation at Universe Heaven Level 5. Even if their talent is extraordinary, there's still Zhao Gao's. Hearing about Zhao Gao's, the tall man's eyes lit up, and his dispirited look disappeared. As long as the Center God Province's 3 geniuses died, they could return. However, they did not know that the Abyss Pearl mainland was about to perish. Elsewhere, Zhou Xuanji and the others landed on a grassy plain. They did not continue onwards and silently waited for Zhao Gao's to descend. Where did Great Emperor Wuwang run off to? Don't tell me he really died? Marquis muttered as he sat on the ground. He felt like he was Great Emperor Wuwang's mortal enemy, and he did not want that fellow to die so quickly. Zhou Xuanji did not reply and instead started to comprehend his way of the sword. Fighting in the Divine Moon state allowed him to comprehend many things. The power of the Divine Moon was peerlessly domineering. When using world-suppressing and primordial chaos sword shadow, advancing courageously was an incredibly wonderful feeling. Feng Yuxiu stood not too far away and looked at the sky, lost in thought. No one knew what she was thinking. Chapter 521. With Feng Yuxiu by his side, Zhou Xuanji could not take out demon god Tianwu to study, and he did not cultivate either. The immortal energy stored in the Tianxia map was already massive, After all, he had absorbed the magic energy of hundreds of millions of creatures in the Abyss Pearl mainland. Wang Ho was comprehending as well. He had learned a lot from his experiences over the years, and he needed to calm his heart and feel them well. Days passed by. The Abyss Pearl mainland was also becoming more and more chaotic. The 3 divine dynasties and the 8 sacred lands were no longer around, and the people of the Abyss Pearl mainland let go of their inner desires. In the face of despair, they went their own ways and acted without restraint. Emperor Wuwang had yet to show himself. Perhaps he really was dead. If he was still alive, after hearing about the situation in the world, he would most likely come to find Zhou Xuanji and Yi Sisi immediately. Of course, there was another possibility. He must have encountered a great opportunity. 3 months passed quickly. Zhou Xuanji could not sit still anymore. Rather than doing nothing, it was better to go to the Abyss Pearl mainland and search for treasures. He told Wang Ho his idea, and the 2 of them hit it off immediately. Feng Yuxiu led the way. For her own death tribulation, Feng Yuxiu was willing to lead the way. She did not know why, but when she was beside Zhou Xuanji, she felt very peaceful. This feeling was very strange, and it made her even more curious about Zhou Xuanji. Are there any powerful treasures in the Abyss Pearl mainland? It would be best if they are heavenly treasures that can increase one's cultivation. Zhou Xuanji asked, not for himself. He wanted to collect more and bring them back to plant in order to support Emperor Sword Court and Divine Cliff. Feng Yuxiu muttered, I'll bring you to the south. There's an ice region in the south. The natural treasures there can survive for a very long time because there are few people there. Wang Ho asked curiously, how many continents like the Abyss Pearl mainland are there in the Jingqian Great Thousand? When they first arrived, they saw many continents that looked like small islands. They were all about the same size and there were no obvious continents. At least a few hundred. I don't know exactly how many there are. I've been cultivating with Master for a long time, and I haven't traveled the entire Righteous Gone Great Thousand. Feng Yuxiu said with a deep voice. Zhou Xuanji and Marquis looked at each other and saw the sorrow in each other's eyes. A heavenly saint's disciple was indeed impressive. The 2 of them immediately flew towards the south. Outside the Jinggan Great Thousand, a figure sped through the universe, faster than a meteor. His entire body glowed with a faint white light. His expression was grave and stern, and his silver hair danced wildly in the wind. He wore a blue and white robe and a golden folding fan was stuck to his back. He was Zhao Gao's. Recently, his mind had been restless, and he was unable to cultivate in peace. So, he could only return to the Abyss Pearl mainland to take a look. His gaze was calm as he stared straight ahead without shifting his gaze. Xiao. A beam of golden light shot towards him from the front, startling him into tilting his head and dodging it easily. A gigantic figure appeared in front of them. This person's entire body shone with golden light. He was tens of thousands of feet tall and had 12 wings on his back. His aura was extremely powerful. Zhao Gaos also stopped and asked in a deep voice, Who are you and why are you stopping me? The golden figure replied, Zhao Gaos, I advise you not to go back. The Abyss Pearl mainland has been chosen to participate in the war between 2 realms, and it is currently on the verge of destruction. Even if you go back now, it will be useless. Why take such a risk? The war between the 2 worlds. Zhao Gao's expression changed dramatically. He said in a low voice, Are you trying to provoke me? He did not know the other party at all, and the other party was definitely not trying to dissuade him out of goodwill. Ah! Zhao Gaos, you are highly regarded by old ancestor Hongshi. If you die at the hands of the Center God Province's Sword Emperor, wouldn't that bring shame to old ancestor Hongshi? The golden figure loudly laughed. Just as he spoke, Zhao Gaos pierced through his body and sped towards the Jinggan Great Thousand. Zhao Gaos quickly disappeared into the depths of the universe. The golden figure slowly turned and said in a low voice, Zhao Gaos, if you can kill that Sword Emperor, you will not live for long. This is your destiny. Within a world of ice and snow, Zhou Xuanji slowly walked forwards, holding the 9-moon execution sword. He continuously picked up white lotus-like flowers and pulled them up by the roots before putting them into the supreme storage. Marquis and Feng Yuxiu stood on a hill looking up at the sky. From here they could see the starry sky. There were countless stars above the thin clouds and mist, looking as beautiful as a painting. He's coming, I can already sense his aura. Feng Yuxiu suddenly frowned as she muttered. Marquis asked, How powerful is his aura? The crucial battle had arrived. As long as they could kill Zhao Gaos, the war between 2 realms would come to an end. Feng Yuxiu replied, Very powerful. He has already surpassed Universe Heaven and is only a step away from the next level. Hearing this, Marquis tightly frowned. Now that things had come to this, he could only choose to believe in Zhou Xuanji. He turned and saw that Zhou Xuanji was still focused on collecting natural treasures, as if he did not know that Zhao Gao's was coming. Unknowingly he could not see through Zhou Xuanji at all. This feeling was as if he was looking up at a senior. Chapter 528. That's right. What's the point of being a heavenly saint? Sage Daojing stared at old ancestor Hongshi and said. After becoming a heavenly saint, nothing in the myriad worlds piqued their interest. There was no need to cultivate because no matter how powerful they were still beneath the heavenly law. They arranged for the war between the two worlds to have fun. However, after each war, Sage Daojing realized that his interest in the war was diminishing. Now that he had the opportunity to surpass the heavenly saint, how could he give it up? Old ancestor Hongshi was silent. His mood was at rock bottom. All living beings in the myriad worlds admired the heavenly saints, but who could understand the dullness of a heavenly saint? Zhao Kenglin listened and cursed in his heart. You don't want to be a heavenly saint. Can you give me the position? Please don't be so pretentious. Forget it. Up to you. I called you here because I have something to discuss. Since you are leaving, come with me to deal with someone before you leave. Old ancestor Hongshi waved his hand. Zhao Kenglin was curious. Which heavenly saint did he want to deal with? Only the heavenly saints needed to work together. Sage Daojing stood up and glanced at Zhao Kenglin. Don't do anything before I return. Once you break through the restrictions of the 33rd heaven, I will use a peerless divine ability to kill you. You won't have time to take revenge. Zhao Kenglin nodded lightly. He did not want to take revenge a few years in advance. A few years was not a big deal anyway. After that, Sage Daojing and old ancestor Hongshi left. Still Thought Temple fell into silence again. When Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui returned to the Divine Cliff, Jiang Shui was not pregnant with a second child. The difference in their cultivation was too great. There was a formless energy separating them. Zhou Xuanji guessed that it was the power of the heavenly law. Since it did not work, he did not force it. That day Yang Yuqian came to visit him personally. He seemed very excited. After the battle at the spirit platform, Zhou Xuanji's fame grew again. More and more living beings thought that he was the most powerful cultivator in the Center God province. The Divine Cliff's reputation grew because of this. More living beings came to seek the Tao and more powerful beings befriended them. After the small talk, Zhou Xuanji began to teach Zhou Xiaoxian. Zhou Xiaoxuan's talent was not bad, and she was even more powerful than the 10,000-year prince. Ever since she knew that Zhou Xuanji had forcefully scared off the great heaven god emperor, she had been pestering him. Zhou Xuanji did not have high expectations for his daughter, but since she wanted to become more powerful, he would not stop her. The father and daughter came to the forest where Zhou Xuanji cultivated before and began to cultivate diligently. Zhou Xuanji imparted the sword soul to her. The powerful beings in the demon god palace were still preparing to move out. To save the old beggar, he could no longer blame himself for hiding demon god Tianwu. Humph! You are the sword emperor Zhou Xuanji? A cold snort came, sounding as heavy as thunder. The azure-robed man appeared with dozens of powerful demons. The one with the weakest aura was at universe heaven. The azure-robed man's cultivation was the most profound and unfathomable. Zhou Xuanji scanned him with his divine sense and guessed that he was at connecting heaven. Even malicious Buddha could not compare to him. The azure-robed man raised his arms and billowing azure flames rose up behind him, forming a blazing azure sun. It had a diameter of 100,000 meters and pierced through the clouds, floating above the demon god palace. In front of this azure sun, all existences seemed incredibly small. Even Zhou Xuanji's heart thumped in fear. He could sense that this azure sun contained terrifying energy. If it exploded out, he would not even have a chance to escape. What is this fellow trying to do? Zhou Xuanji frowned and thought to himself. Going all out right from the start? Could he not be so shameless? The azure-robed man's voice once again sounded out. Remember, the one who killed you is the demon race's azure demon emperor. After speaking, countless demons flew out from the azure sun. They were like a wild storm, giving off massive sounds as they leapt at Zhou Xuanji. So it was like that. The demons here were all created by the azure demon emperor. Zhou Xuanji's eyes flashed as he flipped his right hand, and the wind god sword appeared in his left hand. His aura once again grew, and the thousand-hand sword Buddha swung its sword, slaughtering the demon army. Boom, boom, boom. The demons continuously slammed into the thousand-hand-sword Buddha. Even though they were destroyed, there were simply too many of them, and they quickly forced the thousand-hand-sword Buddha into retreat. Those two swords are quite good. The Azure Demon Emperor floated in the air and said as he thought to himself. The dozens of demons beside him started to chat. Should we act? Don't be in such a hurry, the real enemy has not come yet. This boy is not simple. He can actually block His Majesty's attack. That's because His Majesty is not serious, alright?